Okay, welcome everybody. This is the working group for the development metrics. For first off, let's go ahead and go through the persistent links. Before I do that, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, first link is the average MRs per author per month. And we are roughly 70% through the month. We're still at 5.61. I think we may be trailing behind a little bit from last time. Christopher, Greg, any insights?
Yeah, that's kind of my read on the situation. A couple things to note. One, I've got a question out to the directors to kind of query their teams around it, so hoping to get some feedback around that. Okay. It could be, June's a very popular month for people to start taking vacations, so that's what we're anticipating to come back, but we'd like to kind of hear about it in more detail from that perspective. The other thing that's interesting is we did have a shift in kind of our normal histogram, basically because code freeze effectively moved to later in the month, so I think that kind of played into it as well.
Got it. Okay. On the total MRs merged, we seem to be doing relatively okay. That's my read on it. It's compared to the last month, we are 80% compared to the last month. Comments, discussions?
Yeah, it kind of follows the other one. The way I would describe it is I would hope we would hit around 1900 to 1950 probably for this month, just because last month was basically a lower because of the contribute. Now, if it turns out that vacation is playing into this, and obviously we won't hit that, so that's kind of a good explanation around it from that perspective. Right. But that's where we need to understand a little bit better. So it feels like we have a case of we're probably going to end up close to where we were before, but that's not necessarily where we want to be, given that we've added folks over the past several months.
Okay. Do we have a pattern to manage expectations for other people watching this? For example, like these are the months in a given year that school break, holidays, we expect it to be a little bit down. Any thoughts on that?
We do in regards to usually in November and December. You can see those summer months. In summer months, you would expect to see November, December is a more significant decline. Summer months are a decline, but maybe more distributed is the best way I can describe it. So June, July, August is what I've seen historically. But with the more international geography, we'll have to evaluate that aspect too.
Okay. Thank you.
Like, there's no tried and true answer to that.
Okay, moving on to the next chart. And apologies, I may not have good explanations for this because we're in a kind of monitoring mode. Time to close on P95s are still, I think, trending what's the same as last month. I'm watching the average and the P85s, and they seem to be improving from last month, given that we are, though, the amount of, I'm also watching the amount of bugs closed, which is the black trend line. And it looks like we may be at parity from last month, and which is good, because if we are closing more of the backlog and then the time to resolve is really stable, it means we're improving. And I'm closely watching this metric. And Tanya's back. You no longer have to update the spreadsheet. This is now automated, and we will monitor this from here on out. Comments? Okay, let's move on to the agenda then. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can see each other better. And moving to, we're skipping the hypotheses. Oh, sorry. I think, Craig, did you manage to take the lead on number 8 and 9? Any updates you would like to give us?
I did take the lead. They are or should be assigned to me. But no, I haven't had any time to spend on it this week. It's I spent some time learning about Periscope. I have access to it now. So in theory, I have access to all the data, or I know get more data to be able to better inform those. But no, I'm still pretty heads down on the memory team.
Okay.
So I would expect not a ton of progress in the coming couple weeks, but it's certainly on my list of things to do.
That's good enough for me. And you just recently joined, so you're definitely hitting the ground running at full speed. So thank you for all your contributions.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go through the agenda then. I scored out our working group last time. I'm making another iteration to the rough scoring, which we will touch at the end. I think we are roughly 50% done from the rough swag. Any comments? If you would like to take a look, please click on the link. We do have progress on the metrics, which is great. I think what needs to, like, the loophole that I see here is average time to resolve. I don't think we are going to make 120 days on average, and I'm okay with that being a follow-up after this working group has disbanded, because we have clear process, clear metrics already established. We just need to run with it, and that should be our day-to-day work. And I do have an update on the training program for triage. We'll touch on that later. So that takes care of that agenda item. The next one, we have pinged PMs on all existing customer issues with S1, S2s. It's roughly 50% triage. A big gap here is in manage, where I don't see a milestone being assigned to it. The good news is that these are the only customer S1, S2s that are not scheduled. We do not have any in EE, which is great. The bulk of it is in CE. And Jason is not here. I'll take it to Eric Brinkman to remind folks in the dev section, product management, to add this in. Questions, comments? Okay, I see nods. Okay, next one. I know we're cleaning up metrics, and kudos to Genshin and Dylan for proposing an effective iteration on how to make hygiene better. We're going to add a column called throughputs, and we're going to copy all the throughput labels in that column, so you can just filter by a blank value in that column, and you will find MRs that are not categorized. And if we want to do this at the group level, we can do this too. The CSV export is going to be huge, but we can at least find out where those missing MRs, missing throughput labels MRs are at. And there's going to be another column for the full URL as well. So there's less hacking on the script on everybody's side. Craig, Christopher, your stakeholders in this comments, anything you would like to see in this area? Okay, moving on. Heat maps are coming to group triage packages now. This is a mock-up, and these are being generated for every team label for now, but they will transition to groups. We're still using team labels and DevOps group labels together. So this will technically capture the issue population, the bug population. So this is going to help every group and teams visualize what is in their backlog. This is a mock-up, so please disregard the 145 issues with no severity and priority. It's just an arbitrary number. In every numbers that has a corresponding S or P label, we will build a query link to the issue tracker, so you can click on it and then it will render the GitLab issue tracker with those group labels and S1, P1s. You can just go straight to those issues and take a look and push change milestones as necessary. Comments, suggestions? Okay, moving on. This came off of the product team meeting on Tuesday, the discussion on using due dates to move SLOs closer. I think there are two sides of this. I think some folks would love to see due dates. I think it may generate more noise than necessary. If you're anticipating a fix for 2 or 3 months down the line, the accuracy of dates are not there. So like, there's more likely that you will miss the due date because you're picking an arbitrary due date in the future. Adding opening up the floor for discussion. Christopher is typing in. Yes.
Yeah, I'll verbalize. I'm sorry. I was just trying to get it in here. So we have a yeah, like if we're just end up picking dates, my reaction is if we want to try this, I'm up for experimentation. I have a feeling that this is going to end up being that we're going to have a lot of stuff that's overdue. Like there's a couple things that are kind of in here. One, I've never met a software engineer who, if you ask them when they're going to fix a bug, that they're going to tell you with any definitive authority, when that's going to happen, right? So like it's like, well, when I understand the problem well enough that I can actually address it in code, then you'll know. Now, there's a logistics. Once you have a fix in hand, there's a logistics associated with it. Like how long does it take to actually get to production? If you want to measure that part of it, I think that's totally reasonable from that perspective. But like from bug creation to having a due date, just feels like it feels like it. The other aspect is that because there's a prioritization element in here, unless we have an agreement from a product to say here's the level of bugs we want to have addressed. I think that's kind of where my head's at. But if we want to experiment with it, I'm willing to try. I have a feeling those are the things we're going to run into.
I share the same concern. Accuracy as further in the timeline gets less and less and less, and adding due dates is just going to add more email noise, and I think that's doing more harm than good, because we would want people to focus on the things that are going to go out and not worry about hundreds of emails coming in later. So
that also somewhat duplicate. I mean, the P1 and P2, the P designations have a timeline implied with them.
Yes, they do.
It seems like that might just be.
Yes, is the intent for pressure? If the intent's for pressure, then I think we apply it via expectations around having P1s, P2s be resolved.
Yep. And I would agree, because we now have to take missed SLOs, and they could just query by that label now. And new shards are being added into the native GitLab insights as we speak.
So if we end up using the P priority designations, do we measure by when the label was applied to?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
So do we have a decision in there?
Yes, I'm gonna. Well, okay, go ahead. I was gonna change your remark to the decision, because that's the decision. But that sounds good to me.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. I do want to show this new chart. This just took Mark an hour to do. So he went ahead with the experimentation. But we also figured out that we could just configure this in native insights today. So there's a end of life plan for the quality dashboard that I have outlined. And this is one of the new charts that we'll move over. So good news is very little P1s. Bad news, huge tail of P3s and moderate P2s. So
where are the P4s?
we did not detect P4s, because that's going to be even more, because it can go into infinity. The language says that it's 120 days plus, unless we can come up with 120 to 200 days and then reevaluate there. It's just not worth looking into right now, I would say. Okay, charts here, we're migrating it over. This will go away probably sometime next week, and you would see the equivalent of this chart in the product itself. Second, let me stop sharing. Go back to the agenda. Okay, this is a sensitive one, and I wish Jason was here. Follow up from how we want to deprecate the old team labels. And I think there are discussions on what if a team member from a group contributes to work in another DevOps stage, and that may cause it to be misaligned, because hey, my team member is in this stage group, but then we just want to help out. We add front end work for the other stage group. my take on this is the guidelines should be 2080. There should be some flexibility there, where if they can change the group label to their own group, but there should be some level of flexibility that the DevOps stage label and the group may not match. And sometimes in some MRs, the DevOps stage might not even be applicable because it's like updating Rails or updating front-end libraries. So wanted to open the floor for the group to discuss on how we should do this. I would like to lean on the most simple outcome and not add more complexity. No strong opinions?
Well, I'm trying to grok what are the proposals, I guess. What are the options here? I'm trying to...
The options, well, the first one is obviously if someone changes it, we don't go in and correct it. I think that's key. And it might be mismatch. If they change the group label to their own group, for example, it may be group dependency scanning, which is insecure, but originally it was in the work is in DevOps plan, and there will be a disconnect there because the work is contributing towards the plan stage done by someone in the secure group, for example, dependency scanning.
Gotcha. So I guess where my head's at is it feels like people should label it based on the team they're in, irregardless of what part of the code base they're working on, or whether it's for a feature that's for a different group. That'd be kind of my guidance.
Okay. Writing this down. Use this. And if that happens, and if a product manager comes in and changes the stage to map to their own stage, are we okay with that in terms of flexibility?
I think we're okay if after the fact somebody comes in and updates it, we don't go back and clean it, try to enforce it. I think the one thing is since Jason's not here, it's hard to make a decision here. I think the one thing Jason was talking about was that for the cases where they have to use it for automation, that was the case, that you label it because it's the mapping for their auto generation of product information. But it feels like even in that case, that would be the case where they would map it based on that.
Yep. Should we revisit this when Jason's back here next week?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think this cross cuts many areas. Okay, I'll update the issue there, so the team there knows as well, because this came up as part of the discussion there.
Okay. And 29.714, that's the MR that will basically reflect our decision.
Yep.
Okay.
There's a clause there that is outdated. It says if an issue is labeled DevOps create, may be scheduled by a plan team, for example. Such cases include both. And this is already incorrect because plan is not a team. And Sid can speak to team structure and nomenclature. And I know we're big on that because we need to get it right. Okay.
Well, the other thing to recognize is it keeps changing. And I don't think that's going to change, right?
Right.
I don't think that's going to stop, maybe is a better way to put it. So if our labels are going to change, we have to be very resilient to that.
Lyle, any comments?
No, it's a tricky situation. That's why I'm just making faces over here.
Thank you. That's a contribution. Okay, going to the next one. An ask from finance. This is even more important to look at. Rama is requesting that they audit May 17th to Jan 19th, and I think that's essentially what we have in 2 years in the dashboard. I'm scheduling a chat with him sometime next week to run to ground what do they really need and what is nice to have. They did give us some headroom here that if we're at 75% data collected, that's okay, which I think is good. But I don't think it's realistic for us to go back and label every undefined MR for 2 years. I think we have a lot of things to do, and that wouldn't yield much value. I think we could guarantee that it will be undefined indefinitely because we don't go and change it, and the number should be static. Now, I'm going to run with that. And
why do they need it? Why do they need it labeled for those older dates?
He wasn't clear. Please click on the link there. It's just a rough requirement.
I'm just trying to understand. Audit at a broad level. It's likely to test the source to pull a list of MRs to ensure we didn't miss out, including any MRs. This percent MRs in important period. Extent important. Oh, what is the status with respect to label of undefined MRs period?
Yep, that's the one.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that the status is there's no plan to back implement.
I'm going to run with that.
And if they need that, then we'll need approval from Eric.
Okay.
Eric and Scott, actually.
Okay. Any other insights, comments from other people? Okay. Christopher, you have the next one?
Yeah, so I just wanted to update the team in regards to basically I've started to put together a spreadsheet around missed deliverables, and this is not too surprising in regards to I did it by the old team names because I figured that was currently the listing. So I'm having some data integrity issues, but in the process of doing that, I started to look at both focus in particular on create and verify, and try to understand better what's going on there. One thing I noticed is that on both of those teams, they have issues basically for, say 3 releases in the future. And I'm trying to best understand, is this issues keep piling up? So what happens is they just go to the next release and then they pile up, or is it some other phenomenon is basically going on here? The other thing I noticed is I went back about 4 or 5 releases for each of those teams, and you see some high variance in the number of issues. Like one release they'll have 5 or 6 issues completed, the next one they'll have 40 issues completed. So there's a little bit of work to be done there to better understand what's going on from that perspective. So no real summary, but just wanted to make sure that folks were kind of working that aspect of it, and trying to get a better handle on, okay, is it a snowball effect, or is it potentially some performance kind of effect, or what exactly is going on?
That's great. Christopher, I also want to point out that in every team's retro, we should call it group retros, I see engineering managers pull in the issue tracker query, and they will list like missed deliverables for that release, which is good. But I think, like having a guideline on how many missed deliverables are we taking on per release, and like how many more are we expected to incur. I think that's a great take on it.
Do we have a defined place where in the handbook where we define missed deliverables? Labeling? I think we have a rough definition on missed items, but not the labeling. I could take on the labeling. That's my responsibility to have it clean up, but I don't think we have one, and specifically for what missed deliverables are in the handbook.
Doesn't the async retro process label them automatically for you if you're part of that?
So the automatic labeling is from the automatic triage that we have. But yes, in the async retro for each group that I was talking about, they actually link it to a query for if it's how many missed deliverables are there in 12.0, for example. I see the EMs are looking at that for every team.
So are you labeling missed underscore deliverables, but not the version, or are you also doing? You do both.
Yes.
Okay. And what is it? You hit the release date, and if there's any issue that's currently on that, you just automatically say missed this.
Yes. So I have an issue for that on cleaning how we're doing up. It's called the next iteration of closing out milestones. So there's a slight. We're in a limbo state where before it's closed at we tag the missed deliverables at feature freeze, which is the 7th. That's the old way of doing things. And then all generic missed items are tagged after the milestone is closed. The next iteration is we would just do everything on the same day the milestone is closed. If it's a missed deliverable, then it's a missed deliverable. And then if it doesn't have a missed deliverable, then it's just missed for that milestone. So
okay, do we have that documented somewhere?
Yeah, I have a proposal. I'm getting buy-ins first, then
okay.
Codifying it in. Let me link it here.
The reason I ask is because like this month feature freeze effectively slipped out farther, right? Because we're doing this, we've moved to this model of effectively weekly drops.
Right. So one thing we can do is go back and remove missed 12.0 that ran for the feature freeze on this month, and then do a new accounting when 12.0 milestone actually closes.
If you do that, make sure that you're only doing it for ones that haven't been labeled or were labeled by the bot. Other people are using that same label, so that's one thing that we have to.
I see. Only revert the ones added by the bot.
Yeah, because otherwise, what you're going to do is you're going to basically there are definitely humans going in and putting that in too. Like all the ones I looked at actually had humans putting it in.
I know the EMs are looking at it, and PMs also remove them and change it to the correct version. Are they already removing the missed deliverable tag for 12.0? If that's already happening, then it means
they're not removing them there. I just see them adding them. I haven't seen any. I'm only looking at but I'm also looking at the only ones that are labeled that way. So I don't know if they're removing them. So it sounds like we have some process data integrity issues that we got to understand before we can even validate that this is correct data.
Okay. So I'll take on the driving this new iteration and then adding it to the handbook. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I will tag myself on that because I feel like I should be helping you with that.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions on that one?
Nope.
And then the next one is I've run through the exercise of basically getting teams to label. There's only one outstanding team. I think we went from like roughly over 300 to under 180 unlabeled items. So that's definitely an improvement. Proportionally, this is just for May. We still have a good number of them that we'll have to work to address that appear to not have a team label based on that bit of feedback. So, and then Mike, you had some comments on that in the Slack discussion where you have an initiative around that.
Okay.
Right. Is that correct?
Yes. So we have some enhancements that will help it make it easier, and there are like people like Stan that just does everything and he doesn't map to a team per se. And I think there are some edge cases that we could maybe help with auto labeling to make sure that if we can find a pattern, just go and run the script. So you have to go through 200 MRs.
Yeah. So who you said, is it DZ or is it somebody else or?
Stan and DZ.
Stan and DZ. Maybe they should have their own label.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm serious.
I know it's a simple solution to it, right? They don't map to a DevOps stage, so yeah, engineering Jedi Knights or engineering fellow or whatever. Like, yeah, sure. If you can think of a good name, we'll do it.
Okay, let me take an action. new label, and put Jedi Knight in for now.
I'm going to remove culprit and say they are the outliers.
Outliers. There you go. Thank you.
Yes.
That's much more appropriate.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else that you want to discuss?
Not on my side.
Okay.
That's all I got for today.
Okay. Before we go to the exit criteria, I think cleaning up the mouse, how we label missed deliverables would be key. So I'll jump on that with the rest of the team. Hopefully to get something in before next week. And then other action items that I think are important. I don't think they are. We are making good progress towards closing this out. With that, I will again share my screen and we will grade the exit criteria live. And folks see my screen? Yes? Okay. Okay, I'm pegging this at 55%. 20% increase in throughput at 90. No change here from last time. Let's see how we do by the end of this month. Define KPIs, that's basically done.
Can
Ensure
you
our
make it
customer...
a little bigger, Mick?
1 second. Yeah, let me redo this again. It's the resolution is not that good. 1 second, my apologies.
Thank you.
Yes.
At full screen, it's legible.
Here, let me just do that. There you go. Is that a bit better? Okay. Cool. Ensuring all customer-facing bugs have a severity label. So this is, I'm pegging this at 70. S are applied, S and P are applied, but we would like to close this out in terms of getting a milestone attached to it. Gather time to resolve is 1 is 2. This is already automated. This is done. And 1 second, my OCD twin brother is asking this to be done, so I'm gonna highlight that as well. Going back to time to resolve, I think we're still monitoring it, so I don't have any grade for this. An effective iteration to the current triage package. So we have triage package v2 already defined. We're getting buy-ins and socializing with product management. I'm pegging it at 50%. All the code and servicing, we just have to roll it out. This includes SLO detection, heat map, and a renewed focus on customer affecting bugs and features. Training for EMs and PMs to use priority and severity more effectively. I pegged this at 30%. I have a curriculum there for a workshop already, and I'll do this throughout like a few YouTube sessions. And if anybody here would like to participate in this session, please add yourself to the issue, and then we'll go from there. Training for engineering managers on KPI and interventions. Last time we were at 2. I'm not sure if we would like to update anything here.
No updates there right now from that one.
Okay.
Did you, for the previous one, you said there's an issue, right? But you haven't updated the page yet with the issue, so.
Yeah, it'll be on the page, and it's also in the agenda. I'll link to it in a bit. Okay. If everything looks good, I'll commit and spin up NMR and add everybody here for review. Sounds good?
Excellent.
Thank you. And I think that's it. We are ending ahead of time. Any closing comments?
Nice run meeting. Keeping us on track and pushing us forward.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Everybody's contributing. I'm just a facilitator here.
Support team is really excited about this. So
awesome. Thank you. So I close the loop, I will tag everybody here on the training issue. So you don't have to go look for that. I'm happy to facilitate. So I'll upload this on YouTube. I'll see everybody next week. And yeah, thank you.
Cool. Thanks all.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.